I'm with Leah, who's in northern Israel. And Leah, what is the situation at the moment as far as COVID-19 is concerned in Israel?
Yeah, thank you, Ed. Well, if we would have had this conversation 2 days ago, I would have said something different. But at this moment, I would say there's a bit of a fear for a second wave starting in Israel. Israel, as many of you may know, reacted pretty quickly with restrictions and guidelines. So things were not as terrible as one might have imagined. And because of that, people were in their homes quite early on, and things weren't that bad. For the past few weeks, things have shifted a little bit, and kids are back at school. A lot of people are back at work. Not everybody, but a lot of people are going back. So everybody's still wearing masks, but people are leaving their homes for important things like work and education and things like that. The past few days, there's been a little bit of worry of a second wave coming, particularly in Jerusalem and some other places. There was a big outbreak in a school in Jerusalem, and basically everybody was sent home. So things are starting to feel a little bit more optimistic, but there's also this kind of tension in the air and this question of, will this kind of second wave outbreak bring us back home, or will we be able to kind of get over this? That's, I would say, kind of where we're at right now.
Now, worry is something that runs through, I think, the Israeli psyche. I think it's fair to say, crossing religious divides, gender divides, social economic divides, and this is another one. Now, how are people coping with worry? Is it different from the normal security worries or those other forms of worry?
Yeah, well, I think it's definitely different. Israel has a big history of worrying about different things. I completely agree with that. I think that one of the beautiful aspects, if we can say, of the pandemic is that, the pandemic doesn't choose anybody based on religion, race, ethnicity, social class, whatever it is. So there's something about COVID-19 and the Israeli context that makes everyone really feel together in this. Having said that, there have been some kind of inner tensions, particularly between the ultra-Orthodox community and some of the non-ultra-Orthodox parts of the Israeli society. From the beginning, they were a little bit slower in accepting social distancing guidelines, which did create a little bit of tension between the ultra-Orthodox community, if you can even call it a community. I would say ultra-Orthodox men and women, to make it more simple, and everyone else. There's been a lot of different reasons to why that was so. But what I find interesting is that on the one hand, there's something very basic and human about everyone just trying to be safe and trying to be healthy. But these types of moments also, I would say, make pre-existing tensions come to the fore as well. So there has been a lot of critique of the ultra-Orthodox community on the media. It took them a little bit longer, I think, to get it. There are also more cultural and religious reasons why it was harder to close places of worship. We see this among other religions as well in the world. I find it really, really interesting that the magic number for most of the pandemic was that people, in the beginning especially, that people could not crowd over for more than 10 people in one space. Is also kind of the magic Jewish number for creating a quorum of people for prayers. So in Israel, there's always a religious aspect that comes into the politics, and it's been hard to watch. But I also hope that there's some new things that are happening. The other interesting part of the Haredi community and the pandemic is that before COVID-19, the ultra-Orthodox community is very ambivalent about internet and bringing that inside their homes. So I would say that before it was at about 50% of the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel had internet and had internet access on their own. And you can really see how the numbers have really spiked, and many more ultra-Orthodox Jews now have internet in their home. You said beforehand that the Israeli society has a lot of history with worries, and it's interesting to compare historically that when the radio first came out in Israel, ultra-Orthodox Jews did not want to have radios in their homes, and it took a war to bring the radios inside their houses. And I find it really interesting that the corona seems to be doing the same to the internet. And it will be really interesting to see what the implications will be after this craziness is over.
That's so interesting to see. One of the impacts, if you like, of the coronavirus may well be a greater acceptance, just as radios, as you were saying, 50 or 30 years ago, and internet access now as an ongoing presence. I wonder also whether this sense of equalization that you touched on at the beginning, that the virus knows no borders or boundaries, and that's balanced or set alongside a potential scapegoating or blaming or increasing the divide between ultra-Orthodox and other Israelis. So that they seem to be in tension. Are they both happening at the same time, or is one going to outpace another?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to end up. I mean, the first city in Israel that was 100% closed was the city of Bnei Brak, which is the center of the ultra-Orthodox Jews in Israel. They live all over, but it's very well known for its high population of ultra-Orthodox Jews. And one of the things that I found really unsettling was that some of the communities around Bnei Brak, like Ramat Gan, which is very, very close by, it's all in the center of Israel, they started blocking the ways between Bnei Brak and Ramat Gan as well. And we've heard stories in the US of kind of spikes in anti-Semitism and people, thinking of ultra-Orthodox Jews as spreading diseases and stuff like that, which is something that I am very, very worried about.
And one final question as we draw to a close, which of course is thinking about the other divides in Israel in terms of the interreligious divides, not just the intra-Jewish tensions, but, population of Israel of over 20% Muslim and Christian, population of Israel, of course, including many Palestinians as well within the borders of Israel, let alone talking of West Bank and other areas. But are there any, what can you tell us, any impact of the coronavirus in terms of that relationship, or is it just everyone just trying to survive?
Well, I would say that definitely everybody's just trying to survive. What I would say is that I'd say two things. One thing is that I think that healthcare in general is a really interesting arena to study, because healthcare is really where everybody comes together. When you think of hospitals as a site for interfaith, I think that, medicine, hospitals, that whole arena are moments in which people from all parts of society come together, regardless of their backgrounds, etc. So I think that that's a very powerful thing. I mean, what I would say is that I'm not happy that the ultra-Orthodox community was scapegoated during the pandemic. But the thing that I am happy for, I would say, is that I do not see that the pandemic created more tensions between Israeli and Palestinian people in Israel, which, it's sometimes easier to report when there's horrific news. But I'd like to report, from being here, even though I'm supposed to be in Cambridge at this moment, is that I do not see more division between Israeli and Palestinian people in the Israeli society, which I find quite heartwarming. There's something about a pandemic that really can offer a new start in different aspects of life. We spent some time speaking about the internet and access to internet in ultra-Orthodox communities. But I really do hope that there's a lot of tensions and a lot of conflict within the Israeli society. And I hope that the little silver lining of this pandemic in the Israeli society is one more reminder of how we're all in this together.
Leah Taragin-Zeller, thank you very much.